Sacco and Felice, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFelice.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, there are so many names coming out as potential next Attorney General of the United States. It's been an enormous news day with the word that President Trump is moving Pam Bondi out as the top law enforcement official of the United States, the Attorney General, and moving in short term, the Deputy AG, Todd Blanche. He is going to be the interim Attorney General. He has been like unbelievably supportive of President Trump, as is Pam Bondi. And also, Todd Blanche has been with President Trump at all these different cases that have gone against President Trump. Remember all this crazy lawfare that the Biden administration kept doing, the Alvin Bragg cases, the Letitia James cases, all of these different things. You saw Todd Blanche, President Trump's personal attorney, by his side fighting for him. So I understand why President Trump has a comfort level with him. And often in administrations, there are changes, there are switches, and of course it's coming right before the midterm elections. I don't think that that's a coincidence. And I also think President Trump is just fed up. He wants to see those that he believes have committed crimes held accountable. And if indeed they have committed crimes, they should be held accountable. I am a little surprised that a lot of these sort of investigations or prosecutions so far against some interesting characters have not gone anywhere. Maybe the evidence isn't supporting it, or maybe the system isn't supporting it. Maybe there's a lot of reasons. But you can understand why President Trump, who dealt with wall-to-wall lawfare, is just fed up and he wants some changes. So what do you make of the fact that Pam Bondi is out? And who do you think should be the next Attorney General of the United States? That's a huge position. Now, there are a lot of names that have come out. I want to read a couple that we've just heard about in the last hour or two. One of them is Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. And of course, somebody who ran against President Trump, but has always been a big supporter of President Trump. He was a JAG, so you could see why he might be a good person. There's also Harmeet Dillon. She's with the Civil Rights Division there. Good attorney, too, as well. Jay Clayton, tremendous attorney, who is with the Southern District of New York, U.S. attorney there. Lee Zeldin, New Yorker Lee Zeldin, who almost became the governor of New York, did very well. He's also was a JAG attorney, also a congressman, and now he's the administrator at the EPA. Jeanine Pirro's name has come out, too. Our pal Jeanine Pirro, who is now the U.S. attorney right there in Washington. And boy, all of these folks are really qualified and great. By the way, I also really like Pam Bondi. I know Pam Bondi. I've interviewed Pam Bondi. I adore Pam Bondi. I've met her many times and spent time talking to Pam through the years. Last time I saw her, we gave each other a big hug. She really is an extraordinary woman, and I think she has been incredibly, incredibly loyal to President Trump and incredibly respectful to President Trump. And that's why you could see, even in the midst of all of these things, you could see that his goodbye to her today, when he announced that she was leaving, it wasn't like a slam. We've seen some slams by President Trump through the years. We all have, where he really has put somebody through the meat grinder. It's like, whoa, that person is out. Well, this message today was more of, I love Pam. Everybody loves Pam. She's terrific. She's been loyal. She did a good job for me. But essentially, it's time to move on. And that happens a bit in administrations. Also, just even in the Trump administration, Trump won. Remember, Jeff Sessions was out pretty quickly, Bill Barr, and he had a falling out. So it's not unusual for there to be differences within the administration. And the fact right now, this is only the second really high-profile change. I mean, Kristi Noem, of course, was out. That was a lot more abrupt than this one. And now this particular one, it looks like leaving amicably, but you've only got 2. That really isn't that much for these very high profile, high stress positions. And here's Professor Alan Dershowitz, because we were talking with him earlier today on Katz and Cosby about what he thinks about the Attorney General position and this big change with Pam Bondi out. Wow, what a blockbuster day it has been. Take a listen.
Look, I don't envy anybody being the Attorney General of the United States. You know, it's much better and easier to be the Attorney General of New York. Why? You're not committed to anybody. You're not in the governor's cap. The governor can't call you and say prosecute so-and-so. But if president does that, whether it's President Jefferson, who told his attorney general to prosecute Aaron Burr, or whether it's Lincoln, or whether it was Roosevelt, whether it was John Kennedy, who said to his attorney general, his brother, prosecute Roy Cohn, or whether it's this president. It's a schizophrenic job. You can't be half the time a member of the cabinet who was supposed to help the president get reelected and help his policies, and the other time supposed to be an objective, neutral law enforcement official. So the job's impossible. We're the only country in the world that has that job. Every other country divides the role. There is the Minister of Justice, who is the cabinet official and whose job is political to help the prime minister or the president. And then there's the director of public prosecution, who's not political, who decides who to prosecute. But in this country, the same person does both. And it's an impossible job. I don't envy whoever replaces Pam Bondi, because he or she is going to last just another year, and then they're going to get fired again.
Yeah, it is definitely a tough position. And here is Professor Dershowitz with a little bit more of his insight as to what he thinks happened.
Look, we live in the age of what's called Epstein McCarthyism. You know how many people have lost their jobs over Epstein? It's absolutely unbelievable. She's one of them. She got a bum rap on Epstein. She didn't do anything wrong. Of course there's a list. I've seen it. I know there is a list. It's not a list prepared by Jeffrey Epstein. It's a list prepared by the FBI. I know who's on the list. And Pam Bondi knew who was on the list. Many of the people who are on the list were falsely accused, but there is a list. And the list has been produced, basically. She got a bum rap. And
here is Democrat Seth Moulton, Democrat of Massachusetts. Couldn't wait to smell blood in the water in reaction to this issue with Pam Bondi now leaving the administration.
And so I expect Trump to do everything that he can come up with to try to get her out of testifying, because it could be embarrassing to her. I mean, remember, she's the one who said she had the Epstein files on her desk. I have the client list in front of me, she said, and then all of a sudden she changed her story, and that went away. We now know, of course, that's because Donald Trump's name occurs more than just about any other name other than Jeffrey Epstein in the Epstein files. And it's the single thing that's actually hurting his base. So basically what's happening is he's replacing one child pedophile protector with another. That's what's going on. And that's just an embarrassment that that's the top justice official in the United States of America.
Wow, what a disgusting comment coming from Congressman Seth Moulton, Democrat of Massachusetts. Well, joining us to talk about all the big news today and also her big efforts on the SAVE Act, which is essentially voter ID. Who would not want voter ID and voter integrity in America? Well, joining us now is Jenny Beth Martin. She is co-founder of Party Patriots. Jenny Beth, it's great to talk to you. It's been a while since I've talked to you, and boy, what a busy day it's been today, huh?
It has been a busy day indeed, Rita, and thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be with you. You
too. Before we get into the SAVE Act, which I know you've been doing incredible work on, any comments about what happened here with Pam Bondi and the way the Democrats already, they're saying, too bad, we're going to subpoena her, President Trump, if we get in the House, we're going to try to impeach him. I mean, it's really incredible, just the division in this country, and the Democrats going even to the SAVE Act don't want to support voter ID.
Well, they don't want to support. Honestly, Rita, the Democrats are just a bunch of hypocrites, and they are the party of projection. They claim to care about things, but they really don't. They claim to care about democracy, yet they don't want to protect the very thing that ensures we're able to exercise one of the most precious rights in a representative democracy, the right to cast a ballot and to vote. They don't want voter ID. They don't want proof of citizenship to register to vote. They claim they want voter ID, but when they have the opportunity to vote for it in the Senate, they don't do so. When it comes to the way that they are attacking Pam Bondi, the way that they attack President Trump, they are just consumed with hatred for President Trump, and they cannot see beyond that hatred. They can't look at what might be good for the country. They can't look at solutions to they can't look for solutions to problems that are affecting Americans every day. They are just consumed with hatred. And I don't know the details of why Pam Bondi is no longer in the position that she is in, but she served President Trump. She's been by his side for years, and it is his prerogative to have who he wants as the Attorney General, and I'm not going to get on the air the day that she lost her job and just throw her under the bus.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I know Pam. I'm sure you've met Pam. She's a wonderful woman. She's been incredibly loyal to the president, and I've covered, politics for a long time. This is like very little in terms of turnover. I mean, this is not like, I've covered administrations where it's like, whoa, who's in today? Who's not in today? And then in the midst of all this, you hit it right on the head, Jenny, that they are so against Trump on everything. I mean, it comes down to anything. I mean, they were asked during the, State of the Union, will you stand up if you will put, Americans' rights ahead of essentially illegal immigrants' rights? And the Democrats wouldn't stand up. I keep saying that he could cure cancer, and they blame him for the pharmaceutical companies being in trouble.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. They would blame him for anything. And if he says that the sky is blue and the grass is green, they're not even going to agree on that. So I watched the attacks on President Trump. I don't think that the Republican Senate leadership is as strong as they should be in supporting President Trump's agenda. But what I see from President Trump is a man who loves this country and who is doing every single thing he can every single day of this second term to put America first and do the best that he can for our country to get it back on the right track and to ensure that we have a great country again. And it is hard work. It isn't easy. It's easy for people around the country to sit and throw stones at him because we don't have the results that we want in the timely manner that we want it. He's been in there for 14 months. And between the COVID lockdowns around the entire country and the Biden administration, there is a lot of work to do to set this country right again. And I appreciate the fact that he's working on that. And when I heard him speaking last night about the military actions in Iran, I'm so thankful that he's taking those actions. We've been dealing with problems from Iran since I was 8 years old. It's time to solve that problem once and for all.
Yep.
And he is the only president in my lifetime who is ready, willing, able, and has the courage to take that problem head on.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It needed to be done, and you're right. He had the bravery to do it. Jenny Beth Martin, we just have about a minute or so left, but I want to make sure I get to some new polling that you guys have out that show voters, average Americans, want the SAVE Act. They want more integrity in our voting process. So tell us about that and also where you think that is headed, the SAVE Act, because that's near and dear to the president.
It is near and dear to the president. We've been polling on this since January of 2024. 84% of Americans want only American citizens voting in American elections. It is pretty simple. It's 77% want proof of citizenship when you go to register to vote. And when asked if voters should be required to show a photo ID, including when casting absentee ballots or mail-in ballots, 75% of Americans agree with us. These are common sense, items that Americans want. And when we're talking about these things, like with the voter ID, we have 72% of African Americans, 74% of Hispanic Americans who want this. 95% of Americans say that they have a photo ID. And the fact that the Democrats are standing in the way of something that all Americans want, regardless of race, regardless of age, regardless of socioeconomic conditions, regardless of political party, it makes me so frustrated. There are very few things that Americans can agree on so resoundingly. And yet we have the Democrats in the Senate right now doing all they can to prevent the Save America Act from passing into law.
Yeah, it really is remarkable. You know, you brought up 84% of Americans want only Americans voting. I'm thinking, who are the 16% who are like, no, we don't want? I mean, it really is just remarkable. It's so overwhelming. And the members of Congress on the Democratic side should be listening to the average Americans. Jenny Beth Martin, the co-founder of the great Tea Party Patriots. It's really great to have you on. You got to come back on again soon. It was really wonderful to have you, Jenny Beth.
Thank you so much, Rita. I'd look forward to it. And happy Easter.
Thank you. You too. Blessings to you and your family. Thank you very, very much. And everybody, I'll be right back and take your calls. 1-800-848-9222.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. It's the Rita Cosby Show. Breaking news.
Well, just another reason to say that many of those in NATO are wimps. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, coming out and just saying it's unrealistic to reopen the strait by force. He's talking about the Strait of Hormuz, of course, where 20% of the world's oil comes through. French President Emmanuel Macron, I guess, enjoying the, I would say, the French onion soup, maybe a little too much, saying it's unrealistic to reopen it by force. So what are you supposed to do? Just wait? And what are you planning on paying a toll to a terrorist regime, Iran? What, you're going to succumb to Iran? Let me just get this straight. The President of the United States pounds Iran to almost the Stone Age and plans to send them to the Stone Age if they don't come to the negotiating table soon. France doesn't have to really do anything, nor does the UK. They basically folded like cheap suits. And now they're saying they can't reopen it by force? How wimpy are they?
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it. With a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from St. Louis, Missouri, where a police officer pulled a man from a burning car on an interstate after the vehicle rolled over following a rear-end collision. Dashcam video shows the patrolman arriving on the scene, immediately jumping out of his patrol car and rescuing the trapped driver. The officer said, all I can think about was I was thinking the whole time, I have to run up there. It was just first nature to do it. The car rolled over after rear-ending another vehicle on the interstate at a fast rate of speed. The guy who was involved in the accident had crossed the highway and told me somebody was trapped in the vehicle. And at that point, I just ran across and ran to help him. He noticed that the sunroof was already cracked open. There was a gap about a foot wide, and the man that was trapped inside wasn't a very large man. So I decided I was just going to pull him out. It was a very tight squeeze and very uncomfortable for him, but it was better than burning alive. And amazingly, the driver was, of course, rescued by this wonderful officer. And get this, escaped with only minor injuries. And about a minute or so after he was pulled out of the vehicle, his vehicle became engulfed in flames. Incredible work, just in the nick of time. And bravo to our great men and women in blue. We love recognizing law enforcement here on The Rita Cosby Show. And speaking of abiding by the law, well, of course, the Attorney General is the top law enforcement official in the United States. Enormous change today with Pam Bondi, who is a wonderful person. I know Pam personally. She was the Attorney General in Florida for 2 terms, highly regarded, a huge supporter of the president, but he is clearly just making some changes right now. And just a little bit ago, we heard from interim Attorney General Todd Blanche. That is the number 2 guy right underneath Pam Bondi. And he spoke out and he was praising her and thanking her for what she did for America and the hard work she did over this last year plus. Take a listen.
All right, so what happened to Pam?
I mean, look, I think a lot of, Jesse, first of all, thanks. It's great to be here. A lot of what you just said about what happened to the Attorney General is simply not true. As President Trump said today, the Attorney General made our country safe again, and she is a friend, and she did a great job in the first year of this administration, and people should not forget what the Department of Justice that she came into just over a year ago. And so we are a better Justice Department. We are safer as a nation, and we should all be very grateful to the Attorney General for her sacrifice for this country and for what she did.
Yeah, I like Pam Bondi too, but she didn't give Swalwell a heads up on the Fang files, did she?
I would not believe that for a second. Absolutely, positively not.
Okay. The president reportedly.
Well, you just heard him talk about Eric Swalwell, right? And here is Eric Swalwell, because there was this report that came out tonight, and I didn't believe it either. You just heard Todd Blanche say, absolutely not. And I don't think it's any truth to this, but there was a report out there tonight that maybe somebody in the Department of Justice, including maybe Pam Bondi, tipped off Eric Swalwell that the files on the Chinese spy Fang, remember, who Eric Swalwell had around his campaign for a long time and turned out to be a Chinese spy. You can't make it up, right? So during that particular episode, there was word that all these files were going to come out. And President Trump was not happy that somehow Swalwell got tipped off, apparently, about these files coming out. At least that was the allegation. And then they were tracing it back to Pam Bondi. But people close to Pam Bondi say that's not the case. And we haven't heard the president even say that that was the case. But here is Eric Swalwell, a friend of Fang, saying, no, it wasn't the Attorney General who tipped him off that the files were going to be made public. Listen to Eric Swalwell, who all I think about, didn't he have a personal issue when he was on the air one time? That's a whole other thing. But anyway, here it is.
He joins me now. Congressman, good to see you. So, as I'm sure you saw, Shelby Talcott from Semaphore was on with me earlier today, and she's been reporting that part of the reason Bondi was fired is that Trump suspects that Bondi leaked some information to you about an effort by the administration to release files from a 10-year-old closed investigation into your relationship with an alleged Chinese spy. Did Bondi or anyone in her orbit leak information to you, Congressman?
No. The Attorney General did not tip us off. No one in her orbit tipped us off. It was FBI agents who tipped off the Washington Post because they saw this effort by Kash Patel and Donald Trump to try and interfere in a California governor's race that I have been leading. And so, what this shows, though, and what is quite concerning, is that Donald Trump is seeing ghosts. He's certainly gunning for us, and he wants an attorney general who's willing to break the law and weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. That is what has to be intolerable, not just for Pam Bondi, and I don't know the reasons why she was let go, but it has to be intolerable for anybody who sits in that chair and carries out what we hope to be the rule of law and a system of justice.
So you say you don't know the reason that she was fired, but you know that it wasn't you.
I have no idea.
I'm curious, though. If,
but I'm in Donald Trump's head, and he's tweeting at me at 4:45 in the morning. So,
hey, I cannot get into Donald Trump's head. I would never ask that of you. But
you could tell they're continuing. Lots of questions there. But Eric Swalwell says, no, I didn't get tipped off. And then he's like, well, I don't know why I was being investigated. One of his head campaign people was a Chinese spy. Can you imagine? And this is the guy who, after all of these allegations, right, with a Chinese spy hanging and palsying around with him, then Nancy Pelosi puts him on the January 6th committee because, boy, is he not a fair arbiter of justice, right? I mean, this is just, it is lunacy, sheer lunacy. But here's a little bit more from Eric Swalwell, because he's also making a threat tonight. Not only is he saying that Pam Bondi didn't tip him off, so you heard it right there, but not only that, he's saying that they really are going to go for blood. That, first of all, Pam Bondi was scheduled to testify. I think it's April 14th, I believe. I know it's mid-April that she's supposed to testify. They wanted her. They subpoenaed her about the Epstein files, and that's before the House Oversight Committee. Let's not forget the Democrats had the Epstein files for years when Biden was there and didn't release it. So far, the juiciest thing has been Bill Clinton defending Donald Trump. I think that's been the most interesting thing that's come out. And look, if somebody did anything inappropriate, absolutely throw the book at them. If they did something inappropriate to underage women or any women of any age, I absolutely agree, especially underage for legal purposes. There are so many questions here, obviously. But still, this is such politics, pure and simple. And that's what's disgusting about Eric Swalwell. He doesn't care about the facts. That's my opinion. He doesn't care less about the facts. So here he is, and he is saying that Jamie Raskin and Robert Garcia, when I think of Jamie Raskin, he's January 6th committee guy too. Remember that whole thing, that theatrical thing? That if, first of all, they're going to push to get her to come to testify, no matter what. They said just because she's not attorney general anymore on her way out, well, too bad. They're still going to try to force her to testify via subpoena. And then he also is saying, in the midterms, get ready, because it's going to be impeachment central. There's going to be subpoenas flying more than butterflies in the air. All right, so here is Eric Swalwell, and here's his threat tonight. Get ready, buckle up, Republicans.
Do Democrats have much to celebrate? I've seen some of your colleagues putting out statements. I know they're certainly not shedding a tear for Bondi today, but we have now Blanche, who some of the survivors that our team has spoken to, in some cases, they actually see him as even more responsible because he flew down, met with Ghislaine Maxwell. After that interaction, she, of course, got into better digs in this sort of prison camp. And he's sort of been side by side with her throughout that entire process. Then we know that Lee Zeldin is interested in the job, Jeanine Pirro. I mean, is there a scenario in which, from the Democratic perspective, what comes next is even worse?
That's right. This is not something to celebrate because we know Donald Trump's instincts here seem to be that he wants somebody to exercise maximum corruption against his political enemies. And what the Deputy Attorney General and Acting Attorney General should know is that Democrats are going to win the Congress this coming fall. And Jamie Raskin and Robert Garcia are going to have gavels, and they're going to have the subpoena power, and they're going to have the power of oversight and the power of the purse, Speaker Jeffries, to fund Congress. It's all coming out. It always has in the history of our country, from J. Edgar Hoover to Watergate and Richard Nixon to the last time Donald Trump was elected and acted so corruptly. It is all coming out. And by the way, we are at war. Gas prices are soaring. Iran seeks to attack us on the homeland, and the surveillance powers that the FBI uses expire on April 20. Democrats are telling me, over 100 of them have told me that they will not reauthorize this if this is what they are doing with their law enforcement powers, that they will not give them those powers to protect the homeland if it's just going to be used to go after their political enemies. The stakes are high, and the consequences, though, for abuses of power come this time next year will be even higher.
You know what? He sure sounds like he's talking about himself. Is he like looking in the mirror when he's talking about this? That's Eric Swalwell, the barometer of justice, guys. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Al in Yonkers on line 3. Al, what are you thinking tonight, my friend?
Yeah, Rita, I just wanted to say I think the president wanted to go into a different direction. I thought Pam Bondi was a good attorney general, but she probably didn't help herself the last time in front of the specific committee of senators. You know, to be in front of senators, if you like them or not, it's a prestigious position to be a U.S. senator, so you have to treat them with respect, as long as they treat you accordingly also. So, you know, I think the president wanted to go in a different direction. Jimmy Carter, he replaced his attorney general, Bell, back in the late 70s. Bill Clinton probably should have definitely replaced the Janet Reno, because we've seen the debacle she had under her term when she was there for almost 8 years. We saw Ruby Ridge. Then we saw subsequently right after that, we saw Waco and David Koresh and the loss of life. So this is the president's decision.
By the way, you know what you forgot, Al? Thing. You forgot about the Montana Freeman. I was in Montana, so
okay.
Don't forget about that one. That was right around the same time.
Okay, in the 90s, huh? Yeah, 92, 93,
Yep. But you're right. There's always a change. Quite frequently with attorneys general. There's been a history here, so it's not that unusual. What is kind of unusual that there's been, 2 changes. That's actually not that much, and especially with the pace and the determination of President Trump. That he is so hard charging, expects people to do their job. He had a famous line this week where he came out, or maybe it was the end of last week. It's sort of all melding together, Al, but I think it was the end of last week where he was saying, it's another day with Trump. And he goes, and you know what that means? He said, that's eternity. And it really is. In Trump time is like Biden's like 4 lifetimes, It really is. It's so turbocharged and it's so fast moving. And as someone who has spent a lot of time in the White House, I covered the White House a lot for Fox News. I was senior correspondent. So
yes, I remember.
Yeah, I was there a lot. And I was there, when was it? Last March, I was there with President Trump in the Oval Office. But to see, and know President Trump, obviously, for years, but as someone who spent a lot of time in the White House, even a not as hard charging administration as President Trump's is, I've never seen such a voracious administration in terms of wanting to accomplish so much all at the same time, and him having the aptitude and the ability to be able to juggle it all. It really is remarkable, the pace he has kept up, and his administration and his team. And yet, any administration, there are just so many polls and so many things coming at him and so many issues. And even though 4 years sounds like a lot of time, it's not that long. And if there's going to, and Al, what if in the midterms, what if what Swalwell's saying is that say things change in the midterms? What if it becomes a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate? What do you think's going to happen then?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, in my opinion, the congressman who's running for governor, he's awful.
Yeah, he is. By the way, I think we agree with that 110%. He's horrible.
Yeah, he really is. And I think the president, what he wants to do is what these individuals, we know the players, What they did to the president when he was a civilian was awful.
It was.
So he has to bring them to justice. And we have to get an attorney general who's going to be forceful. You have different ones, like the interim one there right now is good. I don't know how forceful he is, but I know also Janine Pirro. She was the attorney general up here in Westchester, the DA.
I love Janine, old friend. Absolutely. You love her.
Yes. Great. She was a great DA. She was very popular. She was a judge.
She's U.S. attorney there down in
forceful.
D.C. Yep.
Yeah, she's forceful. I just don't know if she has what it takes right now because, unfortunately, she had an injury and, her pain management. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. There is a lot going on, like you said, and it's a tough job. And maybe President Trump will also feel like we've got to keep her where she is. There's a chance where he may say, you know what, I love Janine. Let's keep her where she is. And he might consider, I threw out a whole bunch of other names too as well, but no doubt it's going to be a tough position. And you could tell the Democrats, when I say they're out for blood, they really are. Whoever it is, they're going to keep hammering. And listen, Todd Blanche was right there with President Trump fighting these cases. Remember, he was defending President Trump in that capacity as his personal attorney for a long time. So he knows a lot of the lawfare that was used against Trump. So on one hand, that's a good thing. On the other hand, that there'll be even more incoming coming towards him by the Democrats because of that. But I think whoever has it, they got to have a heart of steel because they got to be able to deal with it. But Trump knows time may be ticking because, as I brought up, if the House and the Senate change, President Trump's agenda will just hit a huge roadblock. So he's got to hurry up and get things going now, or else it may be stymied, unless he can keep the House and the Senate or both. Al, thank you very much. Love talking to you, my friend. Everybody, we're going to continue after the break. 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up on The Rita Cosby Show, we will talk about this big development today, also with Pam Bondi out as the Attorney General of the United States. Who's next? Also, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that she will oppose all U.S. military aid to Israel. You heard it right. Says that she will not allow any more military aid to go to Israel. I will not support Congress sending more taxpayer dollars and military aid to a government that consistently ignores international law and U.S. law. It sounds like she's talking to Zora Mondani. Wow. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Max in Manhattan, line 3. Go ahead, Max.
Thank you, Rita, for taking my call. I came across something that concerns the spread of Islam in England. We were speaking about that in the past, but now it took another step up because you have groups now who are getting a hold of, or they want to be involved with security detail, like security guards. But it seems that if they take a certain test, they're going to be able to acquire guns if they pass this test. So this is the next level. If you want to hear more about this, there's someone by the name of Harris Sultan talking about this.
That's interesting. So now this is where? This is in England, you're saying?
Yes.
Wow.
And England as itself, even many of the typical Brits, the white Christians, do not have gun ownership.
But they will allow this, quote, security group, is what you're saying?
Yes.
That's amazing. The other thing, this, of course, comes today. Max, thank you for sharing that because I had not heard that. I really appreciate it. I'm definitely going to look into that. And, of course, this comes as the UK Prime Minister is the biggest wimp. And he came out in the last 24 hours saying, it's not our war. We're not going to help. Wow.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Let Century Management Solutions get you to your next medical appointment. They specialize in non-emergency medical transportation, connecting patients to care, safety, reliability, and on time. Their advanced technology platform seamlessly coordinates patients, healthcare providers, insurers, and transportation partners all in one powerful network. With over 200 trusted transportation providers, they deliver scalable solutions backed by real-time tracking and complete transparency. Go to SENTRYMS.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.